Ryan Goodman and Tangway podcast is brought to you by Fanduel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
This episode of the Bob, Ryan, Jeff Goodman, and Tangway Along for the Ride podcast is brought to you by Fanduel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. This is a big deal for this network. This is a big deal for us. We're very appreciative of this partnership. Sign up now at fanduel.com/Boston and claim your $200 bonus. Fanduel, America's #1 sportsbook. Bob Ryan, our #1 basketball guy. Jeff Goodman is on assignment, of course. It's his time of year with the NCAA tournament. All right, we're going to start with a serious topic right now with Ja Morant. And I want to preface this by saying we did discuss this with Jeff Goodman, who has much more experience in dealing with Ja Morant than we do. He knew him when he was younger and spoke highly of him as a young man. And quite frankly, I've never heard anyone say a bad thing about him. He obviously is a troubled young man. He received an 8-game suspension from the NBA because he was dangling a pistol during an Instagram video at a strip club. So he's obviously troubled, and from what I understand, he's seeking help. But this is obviously something, Bob, the league has to do something about.
Yes, and it's instructive. I mean, they got to save him. He is, very troubled. He's the details of this whole story. The gun wasn't his, and it was a stupid thing he did at 5-ish in the morning in a strip club. It's the details of what was happening at that strip club that disturbed me as much or more than the stupid, harm. It was, the gun thing.
Right.
The room he was in apparently was strewn with thousands of dollars of cash laying on the floor.
Yeah.
And there were reports last week that he was thinking about or should have been entering rehab because he has an alcohol problem. No, This is seldom meant, and it's not beer and wine; it's Hennessy's and tequila, according to the alleged report. Okay, in truth, I'm reading today from today's New York Post that Jalen Rose has taken a great interest in this case personally, and advising him, and he's been Morant claims he's had 11 straight days of therapy, that he's trying to straighten his life out, that he understands he's got a problem and running his life. By the way, that night in question, he dispensed $50,000 in tips, according to all reports. I mean, this is incomprehensible behavior.
Yeah.
Now I have to go back. He's 22 years old. He's got unfathomable wealth in his. I'm sure that he, even 4 years ago would have been completely beyond his comprehension, and he's not running his life very well. Meanwhile, he is important. This would be important if he were the 12th man on the worst team in the league. But the fact of the matter is, this is a young star. We have actually discussed on this podcast in episodes past about him actually being the new face of the league in terms of, for the young people, for the face of him, because he's such an exciting and great player and likable on the court. Everything about him you like on the court. And he didn't have any flies on him, quote unquote, until now, So I mean, this is important for him to salvage him, and it's important for whether he's the worst. As I said, the last player and last roster in the league to be important, but the league has something at stake here. Yes, so there's a lot of things at stake here,
and I think that Adam Silver is handling the situation properly. I mean, obviously, to send a message, the important thing is he gets help. Because again, I don't know him. Goodman to me is he's a straight shooter when it comes to people. I mean, as we know, there are certain people in the college basketball world, regardless of their status, Jeff Goodman does not like and is not afraid to say so. Okay, so when Goodman says that this is a good kid, who's Bob, we've talked about it before. You're 22 years old. You have $50 million in the bank. You get hangers on. You get pressure. When you were 22, you're big. What was it? Am I going to be a copy boy, or am I? What were you doing at 22?
At 22, I was starting out as a summer intern at the Boston Globe.
Right, as an intern.
And even a year later, when I joined the staff officially, I was making $72.50 a week take home.
Right, you were an intern.
My wife was teaching at 4th grade and making more money.
Yeah, right. I mean, so much is expected of these players. So we certainly hope he gets.
So
back.
I mean, I'm rooting for him. I want him to straighten himself out. At heart, I think I'm going to go with Jeff's evaluation. But boy, he got off track. He's just off track, completely off track. He seems to know he's off track. I hope a year from now we'll be looking back and saying, "Boy, remember, isn't it great that he seems to have straightened himself out?" That's what I hope.
All right, Bob, let's get to our Boston Celtics. They snuck one out over the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have been playing pretty poorly overall as of late. They seem to be disenchanted, disconnected, bored. Jaylen Brown said, "Hey, guys, now it's time to step on the gas."
Yeah.
Trying to look at it on the bright side. Glad this happened now instead of the opening round.
That is the brightest thing you can say. I concur. I've been saying that to people. Okay, they weren't going to win 70 games. They weren't going to win 60 games. But let's get this out of their system. I'm not panicking, Garrett, but I'm concerned. I don't like it. The lead blowing thing, is like their trademark almost. But it's some of the casual defense. Too many open threes on the other side. That they're not playing as hard as they did. There's no question. The other thing, and Joe Mazzulla is under scrutiny now. He's got to figure this out. This is his job, and this is we all wondered what kind as the new crisis. There would definitely be crisis during the year. How he's going to handle it. And I continue to say one thing: it's not an easy team to coach. It is not an easy team to coach if you're the coach. Simply deciding who to put on the floor at any given moment. They have 11 NBA value, useful players, which is about 3 too many to manage a team. They do not have a rotation. There is nothing resembling a rotation. And here we are. It's a season, and round in third and heading for home. And that I understand why, but I don't know if they'll ever be resolved. Are we going to be sitting there in the third round of the playoffs and he still doesn't have a rotation? Because you've got so many choices and you can second guess yourself endlessly. And you have, people will say, why isn't Derek White on the floor at the end of the game? Well, because we got Brogdon. Well, why isn't Brogdon on the floor? Because we got White,
right.
Stuff like that. And then suddenly Mr. Griffith has been elevated from his cheerleader, big brother counseling role into a functioning tech player on the floor. One more body to work into the mix. What's happened to Cornette and Muscala lately? They're watching, and both of them had moments where they were very useful. Anyway, they got it. We know that there are two teams breathing. Well, they're not breathing down their neck. Milwaukee is ahead of them, and Philly's breathing down their neck. And they better take it seriously. They better get their act together.
Well, we're going to talk more about this coming up. And first, we have to tell you, well, as you know, Fanduel is in Massachusetts. Massachusetts, listen up. The wait is finally over. America's #1 sportsbook is now live in Massachusetts, and happy to bring you the Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tangway Along for the Ride podcast. And new customers in Mass and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Sign up at fanduel.com/Boston. Finally, you can bet all your favorite sports from the money line to point spreads to player props and more. Now, this app is so easy to use. You're just a touch away from using all that sports knowledge to play and have some fun with FanDuel. Okay, the app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Don't miss your chance to get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Visit fanduel.com/Boston. Make every moment more on America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Massachusetts. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Hope is here. GamblingHelplineMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support.
Speaking of which, before we go on, I don't know the numbers, but I'm told that the first weekend rollout of the mobile betting last weekend produced an astonishing amount of money.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised. No, I'm not. But it happened. It was a break the bank weekend.
It was historic, really.
Right out of the chute.
Bob, we've been around so long. We could do a whole podcast on this. On the impact of this. But we'll save that for another time.
Yeah, right. There'll be plenty of time to assess this.
We'll plenty of time to do that. Right. Okay. The thing I want to get back to with the Celtics is we have to see if they can flip the switch back on. You mentioned playing lethargic on defense. I mean, that when you're dogging it on defense, man, you just know. Like my coach used to say, Tangway, look, come on, get it going, kid. If you're not playing hard on defense, that's just effort. That's not talent. That's not ability. That's just effort. And my concern is, as you mentioned, the Sixers have won 6 in a row. Milwaukee seems to be very poised. So when the Celtics decide to play again, will they be good enough considering how Philly and Milwaukee is playing at this point?
Massachusetts, listen up. The wait is finally over. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is now live in Massachusetts, and new customers in Mass can get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at fanduel.com/Boston. Finally, you can bet on all your favorite sports, from the money line to point spreads to player props and more. The app is so easy to use. You're a touch away from just having fun with all your sports knowledge. And it's a safe, easy, secure way to bet. Don't miss your chance to get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Visit fanduel.com/Boston. Make every moment more on America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Mass. Visit online, real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Hope is here. GamblingHelplineMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support.
Well, that's a very fair question, and I think that the three of them in general terms are pretty equal. Philly, 2 months ago we wouldn't have put Philly in that discussion, but you have to put them in there now.
But Bob Ryan, to your credit, you said look out for him always.
I did. Well, Embiid is a monster, and we got 2 towering figures on these other teams. We got Giannis. This whole thing about who's the MVP, which is a great endless discussion all year, and people were saying, the consensus only a couple of weeks ago was, Jokic is going to win his 3rd straight. I mean, I'm not a voter or anything like that, but how can you kind of watching the way Giannis is playing and the way Embiid is playing, and I don't know how you can casually dismiss them at all. I think it's a tremendous race, and I would have no problem voting for either one of those 2 guys right now if I had a ballot in front of me. And they're carrying. Well, Embiid is really carrying that team. Giannis has more help. More tangible help, although they still haven't had a fully functioning Middleton all season. Drew Holiday is better than I ever thought he was. Okay, I didn't realize how good he was until last year at all. So anyway, Giannis though is just, man, he's a terror. He's a terror. He really is.
I mean, I love. While obviously I am a Celtics fan, if somehow Embiid and Giannis ended up in the Eastern Conference Finals, that would be unreal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, neutral fans should be very pleased. Meanwhile, our guy, who was in this discussion for a while, he's hit a low. Tatum has hit a low, and I'm confident that he'll snap out of it. But he needs the full package. They're going. He's not just going to the hoop, but making the threes and the whole package. Get to the line, all 3 things. And right now the three's not dropping, and presumably it will. But I'm not worried. I'm not panicking again. But the fact is, Brown. Thank God for Brown.
Right.
Oh my God! Thank God for Brown. Even in the losses, is the only reason they're in the games lately. And he did it again last night. And he. Ever since this guy's playing really. I know he must hate the face mask, but boy, is he playing well despite the face mask. He got a shot in the face last night. He wasn't happy. I know that, but I know he's anxious to get it off. But boy, I give him full credit for what he's doing, because it's not easy. It's tough, and he's played as well or better as well as he has all season with the damn face mask on. Good for him.
Bob, real quick, I did notice that there's a battle for 5th and 6th place in the West with the Clippers and the Warriors. I find that very interesting. I've never been more interested in the middle of the pack playoff race. Is there any chance those 2 elevate in the playoffs?
I have said all along the Warriors could very well be the 69 Celtics. I don't until they're eliminated. This is Rasputin. Until they got the. He was stabbed to death, choked to death, drowned, body dismembered, burned. I still respect the Warriors. But the strangest phenomenon in terms of a team's performance in the entire league all year is their inability to win on the road. they have a ludicrous road record, and I don't understand that given this veteran nature of the team in general terms. But they've been trying to piece it together all year, health wise and everything else. And if they can get it together in the playoffs, they're going to be heard from. The other guys, they made a big addition, and I haven't been following closely. Is Westbrook having an effect?
That's a good question, Bob. I would say I
don't know. I should have done my homework before on that one.
No. It's on me. I'll look it up right now. That's why we have phones, Bob.
Yeah.
But no. It came in the top of my head. I was looking at the standings this morning, and I thought to myself, what's going on with these guys? And I said, will the Clippers? Yeah, because the Clippers overall have we all know that these guys have just totally underachieved. I mean,
yes.
Consider what they're supposed to have. Okay. He had 15 points last night. Not really. He had 27 against Sacramento on March 3rd. He had 9 against Memphis, 7 against Toronto, 7 against the Knicks, and 15 against Golden State.
So
with 7 assists, 3 assists, 7 assists. I mean, his best game was a double-double March 3rd against Sacramento.
Okay. Well, all right. So it's certainly better than, the average seventh man in the NBA. That's
right. I mean, I think he's a nice piece, that one of those things, but it's still going to come down to the other guys.
Yeah, I know, of course. And that's a formidable duo. Kawhi Leonard every once in a while reminds you about how good he is.
That's the thing. That's
every
what I think about.
You forget about him at times, and that he has won a ring and was more responsible for that ring than any other player on that team. And he's a hell of a player. I mean, and so no, it's going to be some interesting matchups, some interesting stuff in both conferences. I mean, are the Knicks going to cause any angst for somebody?
Yeah, I don't believe in the Knicks, but
all right, I think they could. There's all kinds of good questions, but our guys just better, get it out of their system, as we both agree.
Right.
Get it out of your system now. You can't have this in May.
Well, you have to. Jaylen Brown's right. He said this. We have to get going now.
Now, given the fact that we got these two big brothers on the team. You'd think maybe they could, their influence would prevent this from happening, because we got Horford and we got Griffith. And
I don't know if that works with Tatum.
Oh.
When you have your own shoe commercials and you're the guy and you're an MVP candidate, I don't know if the big brother thing works anymore. I don't know. But Brown said it last night, where he's like, we got to get going now, because the worst thing you can do is go into the playoffs like this then think you can flip the switch and realize you can't.
Well, now we also have another race to the crossing with Robert Williams said again. It would be nice if we could ever go a month in our show without talking about Robert Williams and his inability to stay on the floor. I'm
done.
I got one more thing on the Celtics, and that is, Grant Williams, who of course had been buried, had been dropped off the map, have not been playing.
Right.
And then he comes up and he has a great 5 seconds last night to save the game. A great rebound. He should have called time. I don't know what he was thinking about. He should have called time, but he didn't. But then how he got that tap, we'll never know. But
at least that's a good sign, because he's a guy that I thought was kind of falling in love with his own voice, and just kind of dude, you're very fortunate to be in this position. Some of those guys that I remember this. I think this kind of happened with Jay Crowder, where they thought they were better than they were until they went elsewhere, and it's a sign of a quality player to lose time and go back in and make one key play.
Well,
that's a good sign.
He saved their life now, so that's
a good sign. Bob, I just remember, and I want people to know that we all love Bob Ryan, and Bob had been very public. He's like a lot of people. He had heart surgery, but this is what you need. This describes Bob Ryan. After I called him after he had heart surgery, he said, "The timing is perfect, because now I can recuperate and watch the NCAA tournament." You are the eternal optimist.
I couldn't have. If I had planned it in my life when I was 5 years old, when you're 68 years old, you're going to have a heart problem, and you're going to need 28 days of recuperation where you can't drive and you can't do anything. Please God, make it the month of March. My heart surgery was on March 3rd, 2016. And that meant I got a month where and by the way, they had 2 TVs in my hospital room, one over my head and one big one. And so on 5 days, I'm watching a tournament in the hospital, come home, spend the entire month watching the tournament and recuperating. It was one of the best months of my life.
I love that story. So Jeff Goodman just chimed in. He's picking Houston to win the whole thing.
Well, sure. They're one of the. I've got a list.
Go ahead, let it rip.
Here, one of the following will be wearing the crown on the night of April 1st in Houston, Texas. Alabama, Creighton, Arizona, Marquette, Texas A&M, Kansas, Gonzaga, Kansas State, Houston, Purdue, Texas, or UConn.
Holy cow, dude. How many? That's like 10 teams.
12. Yeah. Now, in the ordinary season, 99.9% of seasons, when it's all over, you look back at the tournament and say, you know what? Only 3 or 4 teams really could have won. You know, there were clearly, you know, to win 6 games in a row, what it takes, blah, blah, blah. This year, we saw 4 or 5 different number ones. We saw 2 weekends in which 1 and 2 each lost the same night, including a weekend in which 5 of the top 12 lost 2 weeks ago. And we have multiple, look at the records of the number 1 seeds. The least amount of losses in the number 1 seed this year is 5. It's that kind of year. It is completely wide open. There is somebody outside those 12 might sneak in. So now, who's my pick? Well, this is kind of hard, kind of half heart, half head, because I root for them all the time. There is a team entering the tournament that has been a perennial bridesmaid in the last in the 21st century that enters the tournament this year with less pressure than it has had in at least 15 years. And it still has a good team. And it has a guy who might be able to carry them. And that team is Gonzaga. And Drew Timme is a horse. He's a great college player. I don't know what kind of pro he's going to be. We'll see. But he's a great college player. This is the 35th anniversary of Danny and the Miracles, by the way, because everybody wants to know. As, by the way, speaking of guys carrying teams to championships, 35th anniversary of Kansas and Danny Manning. Anyway,
Great name.
Drew Timme and Gonzaga are my pick. Now, how fervently do I believe that? Oh, God, I could have picked, throwing the dart against the board and picked the Alabama. We got to talk about them in a minute. I got another team. Here's my Final Four. You ready for my Final Four?
Sure.
I got a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 7. The 1 is Alabama, and that's going to be a bleep storm, by the way, if they get to the Final Four. You know why. We're going to talk about that. 2 is Marquette, who I'm afraid I'm impressed because I was at the Big East tournament and they caught my eye, and I have a new favorite player. 3 is Gonzaga, and 7, and this is again half heart, half head, because I love the coach, Texas A&M. Which, there's going to be a second round game that's going to be, I can't wait. Texas versus Texas A&M.
Oh, wow.
There's going to be a lot of fans riled up in that one. That's going to be great. So anyway, that's my Final Four. And I got a Gonzaga winning. So we'll see.
So you had some thoughts on Alabama.
Well, the whole idea of the Brandon Miller thing and now they find out there's a 4th player that was involved that night that's been revealed that's around. It's and the way they're handling it is reprehensible, and not just the NATO said something stupid right away, which he knows he had to apologize for. He wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time. That was ridiculous. But the school, this kid shouldn't be playing. Period. And if they are, my God, if they get to the final, every post game press conference, people ask them about it, about it. They're not going to get away from it. If they get to the Final Four in that first press conference, it'll be. You have to buy a ticket as a media to get into that one, but there are going to be so many people that are going to want to grill them. And he should not be playing. And they're good enough to win. By the way, he's the best player in the country.
Right. But so you're saying they're good enough, have him miss a game now and move on.
Well, I mean, he just shouldn't be playing at all.
Okay.
But he is playing and he's playing great. When I got 41,
right.
By the way, he's a tremendous player. He's probably the best player in the country now. So it's just I hate when you have a loose end. They're a loose end in the tournament. They're everything else I think is really fun and a lot of good things to talk about, but they're a cloud hanging over the whole thing. And God forbid they get to the Final Four. Oh my God. It won't be, it'll be messy. It won't be pretty.
Well, Bob, enjoy all the games, my friend.
I shall.
We'll try to wrangle Goodman in next week, see if he can bless us with his presence, but we understand why he's out straight.
All right, good.
All right, Bob, get your FanDuel account. This episode of the Bob Ryan, Jeff Goodman, Tangway along for the right podcast, brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Sign up now at fanduel.com/Boston and claim your $200 bonus.